Hey team, I'm gonna work through these problems pretty quickly, but you can slow, pause, etc. the video. My goal is to work through them and upload the video as soon as I get finished. So number one says, what is 4/5 as a decimal? So I'm gonna write 4/5, and we have learned a little trick to remember which one goes inside the division box. The top dog goes in the doghouse. So 4 divided by 5. 5 goes into 4 0 times. Then I multiply 0 times 5 to get 0. And when I subtract, I have 4. So I've divided, I've multiplied, I've subtracted. Now I need to bring it down. So this is where I put my decimal because that's the end of that whole number. Bring down the 0, I've got 40. 5 goes into 40 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. When I subtract, I get 0. And since I have 0 and I have nothing left to bring down, I am finished. 0.8 is my answer. C. All right, what is 1 8/9 as a fraction? Number 2. So 1 8/9 as a decimal. I have to convert that to a mixed number. So 9 times 1 is 9, plus 8 is 17/9. Okay. Top dog goes in the house again, so that's 17 divided by 9. 9 goes into 17 one time. 1 times 9 is 9, and when I subtract, I have 8 left over. I'm going to add my decimals, because that's the end of the original number that I had. Bring down a 0, and start over, dividing. 9 goes into 80, 8 times. 8 times 9 is 72. When I subtract, I have 8, bring down a 0. Man, that looks familiar. See how I have 80 here and 80 here? Tells me I'm probably going to be repeating. 9 goes into 80, 8 times. 8 times 9 is 72. Oop, sure enough, it's repeating. So to mark it as repeating, I am going to write 1.8 with the repeating bar over top. So number 2 is going to be H. Number 3 says write 0.125, 0 and 125 thousandths as a fraction in simplest form. So 0 and 125 thousandths. This is the tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place. So 0 and 125 thousandths. So I write that as a fraction. I'm going to divide by 25 because I know that 25 goes into 125. Whatever I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. 25 goes into 125 5 times. And 1,000 divided by 25, I don't know that off the top of my head. So I'm going to use long division. Oops. 25 goes into 100 4 times. 4 times 25 is 100. And when I subtract, I get 0. Bring down the other 0. 25 goes in 0, 0 times. And that's the end of my original number. So I'm going to put a decimal there. 0 times 25 is 0. And when I have 0 and I have nothing left to bring down, that's when I can stop. So 5/40. Ooh. I don't think I'm quite simplest formed, so I'm going to divide by 5, divide by 5 again, and get 1/8. So let's look at our answer sheet. Sure enough, A says 1/8. Number 4. Number 4 says, what is the least common denominator of 11/12 and 1/8? Well, my denominators are 12 and 8. So I'm going to skip count by 12, 24, 36, 48. Skip count by 8, 16, 24. Whoop, found them. So my least common denominator is H, 24. Number 5 says, which symbol makes 3 and 13/28 compared to 3 and 17/30 a true sentence. So 3 and 13/28 compared to 3 and 17/20. Oops, I'm sorry, 30ths. That would have been very obvious for 20ths because 17/20 is almost a whole. Okay, I noticed that these are hard to compare because they're both close to half. So I'm going to look at what is half of 28? That'd be 14/28. And what is half of 30? That would be 15/30. The whole numbers are the same, so I don't really have to worry about those. I do notice that 13/28 is less than halfway, and 17/30 is more than halfway. So this one is greater. 3 and 17/30 because it's greater than halfway to the next whole number. All right, number 6. Ooh, and I forgot to write that down here. So that would be B. Okay. Number 6 says, which symbol makes -7/12 and -5/9 a true sentence? So -7/12 and -5/9. If I compare them, I got to get least common denominator. So 36 is my least common denominator. 12 times 3 is 36. Whatever I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. So I get -21/36. 9 times 4 is 36. Whatever I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. So I get -20. Now this is hard. So I'm going to draw a number line to help me map out my thinking. I know that it would be like -1/30, -2/30, -3/30, all the way to -20/36. And -21/36 would be next. When I'm thinking about negatives, the closer I am to getting out of debt, the better. So I have a better value or a greater value if I'm closer to 0. So that's why -20/36 is your answer, which is equivalent to -5/9. So G. Number 7. It says, Kelly made 6 batches of cookies. Her friends asked her to make an extra batch. She used 17 1/4 cup originally and needs another 7/8 cup for the extra batch. How many cups of sugar will Kelly use altogether? Well, this idea that she's already made some and she needs more sugar to make the extra batch, and then I've got this keyword that says altogether. I'm thinking this is an addition problem, because how much will she need to make all of the batches? Here, I'm going to get common denominators. 17 over something eighths plus 7/8, because I know 4 and 8 have a common denominator of 8. I got 4 times 2 to get 8, and 1 times 2 is 2. So 17 and 2/8 plus 7/8 is 17 and 9/8. Oh man, I have an improper fraction here, so I'm going to convert that improper fraction to 1 and 1/8. So now I've got that 17 and that 1 and 1/8. So that would be 18 wholes and 1/8 left over. All right, so we're looking at number 8 now. And number 8 says 1/6 plus a -7/9. So when I add, I've got to get common denominators, and that would be 18. I'm going to rewrite the problem exactly as I saw it, but with common denominators. How do I turn 6 into 18? By 3. Whatever I do to the bottom, I got to do the top. How to turn 9 into 18? By 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I got to do the top. Oops. So I have a +3 and a -14. I have more negatives than I have positives. How many more negatives? I've got 11 more negatives than positives. So the answer is -11/18, which is H. And I realized I forgot to put the answer C down for 7. All right, 9. 9 says 11 and 5/7 plus 8 and 1/7. Well, this is nice because they have the same denominators. So I'm going to add my fractional parts to get 6/7, and I'm going to add my whole numbers to get 19, and I can't simplify. So the answer is B, 19 and 6/7. Number 10 says 3/12 times 4/21. Now, these are going to be some extraordinarily big numbers to multiply together, so I'm going to simplify first. I can cross simplify by saying 3 and 21 have 3 in common, so I'm going to divide by 3 and get 7. I'm going to divide by 3 and get 1. And 12 and 4 have 4 in common, so I'm going to divide by 4 and get 1, and divide by 4 and get 3. Well, 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 7 is 21. So for number 10, I should get 1/21. So I. So just a quick look at those answers. And I'm going to go back. And I need another blank piece of paper real fast. Oop. Well, this is the one I grabbed. I need it to be lined though. 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. Gonna open up a new pack here with one hand. I'm gonna set you down for a minute, but it's still here. Parents, if you're listening, I am getting really low on lined paper. So if you guys want to donate a box or a pack of lined paper, that would be awesome. Okay, so number 11 says 3/5 minus 1/5, which is really nice because if I have 3/5 and I take away 1/5, I only have 2/5 left. I did all that without you watching, but that's 3/5 and I'm taking away 1/5. I have 2/5 left, which is C. Number 12 is 3 and 5/9. Take away 2 and 1/3. I'm going to rewrite this so they have common denominators. So 3 and 5/9, because I know that I can write this as 2 and something ninths. How do I turn 3 into 9? Times 3, so same thing to the top. So 2 and 5/9 take away, 3 and 5/9 take away 2 and 3/9 would be 1 and 2/9. H. 13. 5/6 divided by 2 and 1/6. I'm going to convert this into an improper fraction first, so it'll be easy for me to work with. So I'm going to keep 5/6, and when I convert this over to an improper fraction, I've got 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13/6. Then I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, or keep, change, flip. So 5/6 times 6/13. All right. Again, these are some weird numbers to multiply by. So I'm going to simplify by dividing by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 5 times 1 is 5. And 1 times 13 is 13. So we've got 5/13, which is A. Number 14. All right, it takes Laura 1/3 of an hour. It takes Laura 1/3 of an hour to walk to the library, which is 3/4 of a mile away. Okay. What is her walking pace? Well, all the answers are in miles per hour units. They're in miles per hour units. What's that fraction bar mean? It means to divide. So I'm going to divide my miles, 3/4 by my hours, divided by 1/3. And if I keep, change, flip, because it's a division problem, I've got 3/4 times 3/1, which is 9/4. And if I convert that to a mixed number, I'd have 2 and 1/4 left over, because I know that 4/4 plus 4/4 plus 1/4 equals 9/4. Here's 1 whole. Here's another hole, and here is my 1/4 left over. Cool. All right, number 15. 15 says a recipe calls for, oh, also this is letter H, sorry. 15 says a recipe calls for 1/8 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And if the recipe is doubled, how much vanilla is needed? So doubled means times 2, right? Anytime I multiply by a whole number, I'm gonna put it over 1. 2/8, which makes sense, because if it's doubled, I used to use 1/8, and now I use 2/8, but I gotta simplify that, because our measuring spoons don't say 2/8 on them, but I can just use it twice, I guess. I could also use the 1/4 measuring spoon. If I divide by 2, divide by 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the simplest form is 1/4 tablespoon. All right, 16. Jeremy and his friends ate 5/8 of the pie. If the pie was cut into 8 pieces, how much of the pie is left over? So if I have a pie and we cut it into 8 pieces, okay, so I cut it into halves, cut it in quarters, and I cut those quarters into 8ths, and I ate 5/8 of them, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 3/8 left over, so I. All right, number 17. Oh, yes, we finally made it. This part was 6th grade standard. We're going to come back to that in the spring, but not now. So that is the end of the video. I hope this helps a lot, guys. Here's the answers one more time. And I'm going to show both sides of the work. Oops. So if you need to see anything, of course, you can go back and scrub the video. But here's a shot that you can pause on if you need to see this. And here is 7 through 10. And here's the shot of 11 through 16. Y'all, I cannot wait to see y'all's greatness shine tomorrow. Make sure you get some good sleep. Don't stress. There's always a chance to learn this later. So do your best.